Hey guys, it's Will. So today we're going to go over RedWire. Hopefully you're having a good one. You could see here in the background I got a bunch of chairs because we had the team over here and everybody was working here for the last few days. It's nice to be working here as we're still in Buenos Aires for the next few weeks. And today we're going to go over space tech. I was really looking at TSSI. That was such an interesting sell-off, especially since I do have a small position there. The data center company missed earnings and really sold down there, and most investors are calling it an overreaction. So I was just kind of studying it today and kind of anticipating seeing what's going on there for tomorrow if we're going to see a recovery, because I thought it was almost an interesting opportunity. And then quantum stocks, you see them find a little bit of a bottom on Friday. We'll see if that is the bottom. But yeah, we get into RedWire. Space tech companies are getting a lot of momentum. I literally just had a dream last night about Rocket Lab, that they had something that was like a building getting launched up and then a rocket going off of it. And I was like, I woke up and I started Googling. I'm like, is that something that exists where they launch a building rather than a rocket? Yeah, it doesn't exist. But RedWire, let's take a look at them. They're kind of beat down here to about $5.50. Look at that. You had the IPO back in 2021. You had a very beat down time in 2022 down to $1 or so a share. Then they rocketed here in 2025 up to $26 a share. We started following them right here it was right here around April actually, when we started covering them, because we went to a space tech conference where we saw some of the best space tech companies in the world. We actually got sponsored by SpaceX for that event. I really appreciate you guys that were able to get a media pass and everything there to be able to go there. That's so cool. But when we look at RedWire here, we actually got to see them do this, release some news, because the space tech industry is in a different place. They're actually seeing the most funding and the most revenue they've ever seen in the world history of space tech. And if you look here, cumulative maximum contract that RedWire secured. I was actually at this signing here it was at the Space Symposium in Colorado Springs. Oh, there it is. Yeah, 40th Space Symposium in Colorado Springs. They are one of 14 prime contractors on this $2.6 billion defense deal with NASA related to commercial lunar exploration and science missions to deliver critical lunar infrastructure. Now, shortly after they signed this contract, this is kind of the market in general. Space tech market's been doing well, but shortly after this came out, they secured a contract for what was drug development in space. So thought that was really interesting. These are a mix between blogs and press releases. Let me go straight to press releases. And yeah, it was right here, a $25 million IDIQ contract by NASA. So they got that contract. Then they opened up a big facility in Albuquerque, which was funny because right when that was happening, we were in Albuquerque for a quantum computing conference. And then shortly after, they acquired a space tech company. This is interesting to see because as they've come out with their earnings and they've started to release just here into November, we were taking a look at their earnings report here, and they came out with some financials that actually looked much better than we've seen without the net income positive. Here, let's take a look, maybe direct on site. They actually came in with increased revenue here year over year to $103 million in the quarter. Now that was much better. Now what we saw on RedWire was, if you looked at the net loss here, was $20 million, increased from 20 to $40 million. So if you look at that, they made 103, they lost 40. That's not so bad actually, because that's an all-time high for them in the quarter. So their guidance shifted early in March. People saying, oh, is their guidance not so good? They were at only 120 million heading into this quarter, and then they came out with 100 million. So they did over 220 million so far this year. And potentially, if they keep up the pace, they're going to surpass revenues yet again here in 2025, as you can see that revenue ramp up from 2020. They're at 44 million, then 137 million, then 160 million, then 240 million, and then 300 million. And again, they might actually surpass $300 million mark. They come in with some fairly good earnings like they just did. So revenue is increasing. The balance sheet was not looking good. By 2024, they looked like they had liabilities that were out the window. And this is why we didn't cover them actually until the Space Symposium and until April, even though we had them on our radar back in probably November of last year. Because in June, they came out with assets surging. So no longer seeing liabilities greater than their assets, they increased their assets to 1.5 billion. And their total assets hold around that $1.5 billion mark right now, and just paid down some liabilities by about 40 million this last quarter. So their assets are increasing by 400% year over year, and their total liabilities up 48% only, which indicates that if you look at their current equity of over $1 billion, their market cap right now is under $1 billion. So they've sold down tremendously. I think they're starting to look like a better deal. Now, after seeing them in person, after talking with all the different space companies that they work with, because I was skeptical. Excuse me. Imagine that sneeze hurt and I got punched in the stomach. That's how it felt when I found out that a space company, for example, like it was KULR, was doing some manipulation on their stock. They weren't telling the truth and everything. They ended up deleting some articles. And I went to that Space Symposium because I wanted to go see that space company and see what it was all about, actually. And also Rocket Lab and Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman and some other ones. But when we went there was no cooler stock. The KULR was not there. They didn't show up. And I was like, all right, well, let me get the most of this. Let me make sure these other companies aren't bad batches. So I went not to RedWire initially. I walked and I went to Air Force Research Laboratory. I walked and I went to the NASA contractors. I went over to the defense contractors, or the Defense Department. And I talked with them and I said, hey, you guys work with RedWire, right? And they say, oh yeah, we do. RedWire is great. We're working on with this sensor for, it was a sensor specifically for being better than LiDAR and a very high quality. It wasn't even a sensor, it was almost like a camera basically, that they were monitoring everything in space and they were getting some contracts from it. And so after that, I was like, oh, that's a pretty good deal. But take a look. So financials look pretty good. News looks pretty good, except for the fact that, there has been, when you look at their releases, they still haven't had a positive net income. It's kind of rare. Even Rocket Lab this year, when they just reported earnings, even Rocket Lab, when we were looking at their earnings, we're saying they're close to turning a profit, but they're still not turning a profit. And actually, this company, Rocket Lab, is at 24 billion, and they made 155 million in revenue last quarter. RedWire made 100 million in revenue last quarter, and they're only at less than $1 billion market cap. I'm not comparing the two; it's actually quite different. But you have to look at the financials in a way and say, oh, well, RedWire in that case, when compared, is way undervalued. And so I don't know what the balance sheet looks like on Rocket Lab, but yeah, no, they got about $1 billion in equity over on Rocket Lab. So RedWire looks massively, almost 20 times more favorable right now than Rocket Lab. And so when you're looking at this sell down, I've been looking, I was looking at this support. I think they were going to bounce, and I have some positions on RedWire. And I'll be honest, we've had some great trades, some great investments this year. We invested in quantum early. We invested in some data center stocks early. We invested even in Rocket Lab early and in AMD early this year. I mean, our returns have been really great. We've had some over 100% multiple 3-digit positions in the percentage realm. But our biggest loss this year, not our biggest loss, aside from TSSI, which I mentioned, that's why I was doing some monitoring at the start of this video, RedWire is basically our biggest L right now, is RedWire. It's down about 44%. It stings. It's like that kick in the stomach, like I was saying. But after verifying it, I actually like the company. I think that they're onto something. And while it looks tremendously volatile, you see them shoot up and sell back down, there is something like this. It's like this market cap where you see some build in value. Now, if we see something like this, we get this recovery, that's a 50% recovery. Hey, then I'll be even. Then you look up to here, $18 a share is where they were back here in September or July, excuse me, and January of this year, or even up to $25 a share. It's 300% return. And that would put them at what? A $3 to $5 billion market cap. If they continue to build their equity, continue to build their revenue, they could be greater than that. And so I think the market cap right now is so low. It's been so beat down, and it's been red candlestick after red candlestick here. And this is the day chart. I mean, when was the last time they had a green day? October 27th. That's a whole month of red, basically. So they're looking to recover, and I personally am going to be watching for some opportunities into this next week, as RedWire is one of the space companies that I personally find to be undervalued. Now, I'm not basing this on just speculation. I'm not basing this on what Joe Schmo told me. Again, I don't even know what the news looks like on this stock as far as hype. I just go to the press releases. Maybe there's forecasts or targets from companies, but I also run it through AI. And we're just running it through AI. In fact, let me run this through the machine to get a future projection too, because we see it sell down to 550. What does it look like here in the near term? Let's get an analysis. Now, in the machine, there's some things that access-wise, as we roll out more features, it's getting even more powerful. And one of the things that's more powerful here is as we get into the next projections to see what the next 3 months looks pretty bullish here on RedWire, as they're anticipating them to close 7.5% up. I would expect more than that. But 1 year, we're looking at 20 to 25% gain minimum. That's how it looks. I think it's going to be bigger than that. But again, we're watching it into this mostly green projections. Maybe we see a little bit of red here and there. But when we're looking at RedWire, here's something to consider. The top transactors, let's take a look at it. One of the things we recently added into this machine here for our analysis is top transactors. And the other thing we can look at is let's look at what, according to the quantum backend that we're running, so we can actually use quantum analysis here. Let's use Rigetti. Let's take a look at this quantum analysis and see what the most likely projection here is going to be. It's pretty consistently looking like the 1 year is the most likely outcome, with a 76% confidence score after running it through Rigetti with some quantum backend there that we're running in our analysis. And you can see there, so they're a quantum computing company. I don't know if you guys know Rigetti. They have, this is an enhanced backend that we've modeled with Rigetti, and you're able to use that in the machine. We just rolled that out this week, actually. And yeah, it looks like the next year looks the most powerful as far as the accuracy for, according to mixing Grok and the quantum. So as far as buys and sells on the insider side, 18 buys compared to 1 sell. Don't take it from me. We can hear from Grok. Grok says at a high level, the net buying could indicate institutional confidence in the company's prospects, though it's important to remember that the past activity doesn't guarantee the future performance. That's key, but also, yeah, again, 18 buys to 1 sell on the institutional side. So BlackRock buying some more and State Street jumping in there. When you look at the insiders, and one of the things that's so great about this top transactors widget is because rather than, let's say we wanted to actually go through the SEC data, I could go over to the SEC data, and honestly, we could spend hours here, going in, looking at the filing, pull it up. All right, let's see who bought and sold. Okay, Mr. Peter Anthony Canito, and you could go through every single SEC filing if you want, or you can just pull up the top transactors and have AI kind of summarize it, and we could see the buys and the sells over here. There is Mr. Peter Anthony Canito right in front of us, and it looks like even on the insider side, you got 17 buys to 3 sells. In theory, you're looking at insiders that are actually fairly bullish on the company's growth. And I do know that they're partnered with Big Bear AI as well. So projection wise, again, we're looking at this support level around the $5.50 range. This sounds like a broken record because we've seen it continue to sell past support. But again, I'm going to continue to add and look for our positions to grow in RedWire. And that's not indication you should buy. It's just the facts of all the different probabilities that to me are attracting institutions lead me to believe that they're still a good deal. Now, again, 650 would be a 17% recovery. If we're looking at a $7.50 to $9 range is about a 60% potential recovery. And with market conditions the way they are, after a big pullback, it's possible we see that V-shaped pattern. With the government now reopened, you're going to see billions flow into the 401ks of different government employees. You're going to see a lot of money coming back into the defense market as a result of them reopening, which most defense companies did not do good during the shutdown. That's big reason. And so now that we got that on our side, I would imagine market's going to price in for a little bit better outlook in the space tech market. There's a lot of great companies. You got AMD even in the space tech with Starlink satellites. You got Rocket Lab. You got Lunar. These are all companies that are breaking the mold of what traditional space tech has looked like. Black Sky innovating AI. And so we're going to follow them into this week. Now, if you're here, you want to join us tomorrow morning at Market Open, you can always join us there in StockMate. It's the second link below, and it's not here on YouTube. It's something private. You get a link every morning at Market Open, about 15 minutes before the market opens. You get that link there in your email, take you over to StockMate, and you can join in our daily live trading sessions that happen at Market Open Monday through Friday. And I would love to see you there and send you a free t-shirt when you join. That's the second link below. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.